Welcome to another episode of No Ordinary Woman, where we recognise and celebrate women of all ages and all stages. Today, I'm very excited to be talking with Doris Posey. How are you, Doris?
I'm very well, Fiona. Thanks for having me on.
You are most welcome. I love your story, and I really wanted to share your story with our viewers. Doris was working for her entire career in corporate and worked in marketing, and she can tell us a little bit more about it. But at the age of 47, decided she wanted to do something different. And boy, did she do something different. So, Doris, you went from working in corporate sector. Just tell us a little bit about what you were doing in that space.
Well, Fiona, I started off in market research. So after finishing some studies in psychology, I went into market research. Didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left uni, but headed in that direction on some advice from someone. And then broadly worked in marketing communications, brand development, those sort of marketing-based corporate sector areas, and a lot of it with the research sort of focus. And I worked both as a consultant to large organisations providing research services, but also worked inside corporate organisations as well, providing services internally in the research space, and also branding, marketing, communications, and all those sorts of things. And at one stage, heading up a market research department in one of the large telcos.
And working really, really long hours. You were working up to 100 hours a week at one point.
Yeah, well, I say that to people. I've actually had people say to me, it's not possible. You can't work 100 hours a week. And I say, look, I'm not making this up. I was working 100. Look, I was eating takeaway every day and drinking a lot of coffee. And I really literally did nothing else apart from eat, sleep and work. So it is possible, but of course, as as a lot of people would know who've been there, you can only do that for a short time.
You absolutely can. And if you don't stop, then your body will stop you. So then you went into a completely different angle. So you decided to leave the corporate life, move to the country. This is like a really great escape to the country story, and just start doing your own thing in the area of sustainability and making your own stuff. So first of all, before we head down that path of what you're doing now, what was the instigator of stopping the corporate and moving to something completely different?
Well, I think, Fiona, the thing was that I was almost 47 years old at that point, and I'd worked for just over 20 years in the corporate sector. And I had some savings and, financially, accumulate a little bit.
Yep.
But I thought to myself, well, I could do this for another 20 years. That would be the obvious thing to do.
Yep.
I'd reached a sort of, reasonably senior level, and, it would have been very easy just to keep going with that, And I thought, well, what would I have in 20 years if I did that? What would I have in 20 years later? And I thought I would have more money.
Yeah.
And I thought, what else would I have apart from more money?
Yeah.
And I couldn't actually think of anything else that I would have apart from more money. And I thought, well, what am I risking if I do that? And I thought, well, health-wise, I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I don't know what the next 20 years is going to pan out like for me. And I thought, oh my goodness, what if I spend another 20 years in an office? Yeah. And I thought, what do I really like doing? And my passion was, I had a little garden. I love gardening. I love being outside in nature. I love growing food. I love just all of that natural environment. And that's what I really like. And I thought, you know what? I could do that right now. I could just leave and do that right now if I wanted to.
Wow.
Which was a terrifying thought at first.
I bet it was. It's like, oh my gosh, go from the regular guaranteed income to, although you were still working for yourself at that point, but still you'd gotten your consulting business to the point where it was quite regular. Yeah. But to go to I'm going to now shift away from that and just start making a life out of my passions and hobbies.
Exactly. And I didn't know what I was going to make money out of. No, I didn't actually.
You didn't at that stage?
No, I didn't have any idea. It was literally throwing myself at the mercy of whatever was going to happen, Right. I had 20 years of corporate skills. I had my presentation skills. I was reasonably good at running a workshop and reasonably good at presenting a PowerPoint slide pack.
Yeah.
I was very good at documentation. I'd written a lot of reports. So I had a lot of, skills in that sort of way, but I didn't have any content skills in any other area apart from market research. And I really didn't know what I was going to make money out of. I didn't know what was going to sustain me. So I was going to be living off some reasonably small savings for a while.
Right. So you've got option A, spend the next 20 years and keep doing the same thing until I retire, or option B, bail now and hope for the best, doing something that I love and making the most out of my life. And because you didn't really have a plan or any security, so it was obviously that being more scared of doing the same thing for another 20 years sent you running in this direction. Is
Absolutely.
that right?
The thought that I might, the thought that I might just spend, I could, miss out on 20 wonderful years of doing something that I really loved.
Yep.
That was the thing. I thought, wow, in 20 years I could be 67 years old and be retiring.
Yep.
And thinking, oh my goodness,
I've missed
just
out
wasted 20 years and all I've got is more money.
Right. That's a really great point. I think it's something a lot of people, especially post-COVID, are reevaluating what's important in their life. I mean, you obviously did this a long time ago, but a lot of people now, your story can be quite inspiring for people sitting back going, I've reevaluated where I am and what I'm doing and what's really important, and realized that they want to spend more time living. And knowing that there's, with what you've done, you didn't even have a plan. You just knew that this is what you didn't want to do, and you ran in the opposite direction. So some people wait until they've got the perfect plan, the perfect budget and stuff. But for most part, you just have to make the decision and go for it and wing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think certainly in my case, that was what I had to do, because I'm actually not that good at detailed planning. And so for me, I just had to make the decision. And then it was really a geographic decision about moving out of the city. I lived in the inner city and really made a move out to a property with a little bit of acreage. It's only small acreage, but enough to grow a few things. And then I started just doing the things that I liked. And it started in a very quirky way, because I started getting an interest in a thing called edible weeds. And so I started researching, I started doing work on it. And then because I like documenting, I ended up writing a little booklet on it. Anyway, it was more out of my own interest than anything else. The little booklet started selling modestly. I started self-publishing it. And it started a tiny, tiny little bit of income coming in. Now, I'm talking tiny compared to a corporate income. It was really, just really, and anyway, that was the start. But I wouldn't have envisaged that 6 months before I started. I didn't know that was going to be the start. It just came up, you know. And then people just started coming out. And when I started talking about my passions, it was like that thing about, the universe starts giving to you what you're putting out there. And as I was putting out stuff about, then people, oh, would you like to run a workshop on edible weeds? It's like, oh, that's an idea. Yeah, maybe I could do that. So
this is a really powerful message. I'm going to pause on that and just expand on it a little bit, because I've found that even in my own experiences, when we open up the space for good things to happen, we've got to actually stop doing something that's not serving us, not making us happy, not doing things that we feel like we're leaving something behind. And when we go out and step out there into that faith zone going, I'm just going to follow my passions and do something that I feel like could be of value. And I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to show up. And then the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, comes, and it's that law of attraction that just opens up all those other doors. And I have seen this time and time again. It's quite amazing what happens if you just show up for it and allow the other energies and powers to enter into that space. So you're working it out as you go along. And I say this to everybody who's starting their own business. Don't wait till you know what you're doing, because the rest of us are just winging it and making it up as we go along.
Yes.
Because I spent a couple of years planning at the very, very beginning, like 20 years ago, executing nothing but planning. Yes. And then I went back and looked at all my planning books and realized I had done the same thing over and over and over and over again and planned the same thing, but haven't actually done anything. So sometimes
Very
we've just got to stop the planning and just get going.
Yeah. And you just don't know to a certain extent. Also, it's like we think that we have the answers about where we should be and what we should be doing, you know, and if you leave yourself open to it a bit, you know, it's like, as you say, God, the universe, whatever, it will take you in direction.
In that direction.
It looks at you and says, oh, I can use you for something useful. Yeah, I'm going to pop you over here.
And and now you've opened yourself up.
Do that. Yeah. And so you then become helpful and useful in ways that you haven't really, you know, you can't come up with yourself, I think.
Like, oh, absolutely. Yes.
You know,
we can
people,
come up with,
like, I have people now who come to my property, and because I'm here all the time, I've been here for 12 years. And I'm not seeing it through fresh eyes, but people come here and see it through fresh eyes, and they say things like, this is amazing. What you've done with this is incredible. I'm thinking, what? I planted a few trees? What? I mean, that's for me, you know, because I've been on the journey. But, you know, I had a young couple here the other day, and they're just starting out on the journey, and they're wanting to, you know, do something where they contribute, and they want to live a natural life and sustainable and all that. And they were just blown away by what they saw here, you know. And so people are being inspired by things that I've done, which I never intended, you know. I was doing what was right for me.
You just went to do you.
I went to do me, and then other people thought, oh, this is great. So I think it's happened in that way. I haven't planned it at all, really. You know, I couldn't, and now, you know, now I'm at a place that I couldn't have planned to be where I'm at now. When I started, I wouldn't know what now looked like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so good. And I think that's a really powerful, it's letting go of control so that you can let natural things happen. Because I think our human brains limit us to a certain extent. And so if we plan things, it's great to plan, we should plan. But if we over plan things, if we're a bit of a control freak, then we can tend to block the better things that might be going to happen for us as well. And we can have an idea of where we want to go. And I think that's why a lot of the, you know, personal development messages are find your why, find your passion, what will get you up in the morning, what legacy do you want to leave behind? And the how works itself out like it has for you, right?
Yes, that's what happened. That's how it worked. And all I had to do was leave myself open to it, leave the time and the space for things to happen, and then just deal with the inevitable emotions that happened along the way. You know, like at the very beginning when I leapt out of the corporate sector, and then I started earning no money, and I started thinking, what have I done? You know, there were like, it was not without worry at the beginning. I thought, what have I done? You know, and then friends of mine from the old world were going on these fabulous holidays to stunning locations overseas that I wasn't going to anymore because I was no longer ever going to be able to afford those again.
I need to save my pennies just in case.
Yeah, that's right. It was like, oh, where can I stay really cheaply in Bali? You know? And so, you know, so it was dealing with all those things of saying, you know what? I've actually closed the door on that. And that's not going to happen anymore. And, you know, the expensive car's not going to happen anymore. And the, you know, whatever, all those things that were part of that lifestyle are not going to happen, because no matter how well I do in this life, you know, I'm not going to be making the sort of money that life made. And that doesn't matter anymore. You know, that doesn't matter anymore. Because this life is better.
That's the thing.
So many rich and wonderful ways that are rich in true richness, not in money richness. So, but certainly in the early days, that was hard in that transition to realise that I could still step back if I wanted to. There was just this tiny bit of like, oh, the door's still a bit open. I could just leave all this. It was like fanciful thinking. It was like, okay, I've done this for 6 months. Look, I could just apply for that job as the market research director of that research company.
I have been down that road over and over again. Having worked for myself, I'm constantly seeing jobs pop up and go, it would be just so much easier to take a job and get paid. And even though you just got to remind yourself what you're gaining over here. And I go, and then I say to myself, but would you be able to work so flexibly, have time when you need to be with your
Yeah.
family, do I list all the things that I'm able to do now that I couldn't if I was working 9 to 5 for someone else.
Yeah, and it's awful because as humans, we're always comparing ourselves. You know, what I found being on small acreage on a farm, I kept thinking to myself, oh, I'd see all these other people that would run their own little farms, but they're still working full time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I could do that, couldn't I? I could work full time, still have all that money and still live that life. But, you know, I could still do my gardening and stuff, but it just didn't feel right. It just, you know, it just didn't, it wasn't what, you know, all that would have done would have been to have continued that lifestyle and pretended that
with
I
a
was
hobby.
doing, the hobby. And I thought, this is not a hobby farm. This is my life. This is where I live. This is my life. It's not a hobby. So, I think that it was quite hard in the early days. There was that every now and then there was just that pull back, you know, and then, you know, looking at the bank account and sort of thinking, oh, well, you know, this is really tricky. You know, how am I going to do the things I want to do? And thinking, look, maybe I could just take a part-time job, you know. Maybe I could just
do you think that's because like that's our wiring, and our wiring, not just that we have created since we've, you know, been in the work environment, but like generational wiring that pulls you back into the safe zone, into the comfort zone, into the socially acceptable life construct that we've learned is the right thing to do. And it's like,
totally. And I think, definitely it pulls you. And, you know, like in my case, my parents came from Italy in the 1950s. They came from fairly poor households and things. You know, I went to university, and then my first job was working in a bank. And they thought that I'd reached the pinnacle, you know, like, got a job in the bank, you know, with these lovely Fletcher Jones suits. You remember Fletcher Jones? I don't know if they're around anymore.
Oh, totally.
Mum bought me these beautiful Fletcher Jones suits that were supposed to last me my whole life, right? You know? And, you know, there's a pencil skirt. I have the pencil skirts. God, no one can wear those pencil skirts. It's ridiculous. But I have the pencil skirts and the little jackets and things. And, you know, and then 2 years later, when I left the bank, they were just stunned. I mean, I went into another job. I went to a job with a consultancy.
You were stepping up.
I was stepping up. I knew as far as my career at the time was going, but for mum and dad, I was leaving the security.
Why would you leave?
Leave that, you know.
And that's that mentality, isn't it, that we have ingrained in us from generations past, that I really do think is holding us back from really stepping out of the comfort zone and into a wide world of possibilities and and growth and thinking outside the box and not necessarily having to do that 9 to 5 thing. But we could go down a rabbit warren here because it's really important. And for some people, the corporate life and a hobby works, that's fine. But if there's something stirring inside of you that says, I just want more, then you've got to follow that, that little spark in your heart to find out and just see where life can take you. If you've ever read the book, I haven't read it, but I heard this woman speak, Bronnie Ware, who wrote the top 5 regrets of the dying. And I haven't read a book yet, which I will, but hearing her speak about what people regretted really sparked in me, like, what am I actually working for? Is it the cars? Is it the holidays? What's really important? And cars and holidays you can't leave behind to impact generations behind you. And that's what's really driving me now, is what am I leaving behind? Is that what stirred you? And is that what keeps you going now?
I think it's probably not so much leaving behind for me. I guess the way I think of it is, you know, and this is a very spiritual side of it for me, is what I'm contributing. It's really about me being of service in whatever way I can be of service while I'm here. So that's sort of the focus for me, is like
having an impact.
Okay, it's not about what I can get. It's not about me being able to get the car or get the whatever. It's about while I'm here in this earthly realm, what am I contributing? What am I doing to be of service? And I guess over time, I've taken that down from the really big idea of like something big I'm going to leave behind. You know, like I was going to write that amazing book or whatever. You know, and I guess for me, it's the everyday. Like if I have a kind word to someone or, you know, something, but I mean, the power went out recently, I lent my generator to a family down the road for a couple of
Yeah.
days. Just very simple. It's basic. I didn't need it.
Yes.
Here, have the generator.
Yep.
Just little things like that. And I try to keep that point of view. My books,
Yeah.
you know, I sell a certain number. I give away quite a lot of them as well.
Yeah.
I try to give time to people to teach them about sustainable living. I try to basically see my time in terms of what I'm contributing and what I'm doing in terms of service to others is the fundamental driving thing for me.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
so it's more immediate
kind of
contribution, but in doing so, that's leaving a legacy anyway, because you're changing the people that you're helping or serving and changing their world and the ripple effect in their world and what they pass on as well. So I think it's still doing that, but I think it's a really good that's making me think too, is just
that contribution.
How are we impacting people right here, right now? And yet that ends up being more fulfilling and rewarding than the cars and the holidays, doesn't it?
That's the thing. Absolutely. You know, that is like, you know, the joy and the pleasure that you get out of those things. You can't, it's like I say, that you can't buy. You can't buy that, you know, you have to, it's something that's just a way of life. So and I think and again, it comes out of my own spirituality about wanting to be the best person I possibly can. And the best person I possibly can is the most giving person that I can be. You know, that's a challenge for me. You know, I've come, like a lot of us, from a very ego-based sort of world, and definitely the corporate world doesn't reward giving as much as it rewards. The people that I saw in the corporate world who did really well were not the ones who did the best job of their job. Were the ones who spent or gave the most. They were the ones who spent the most time working out how to get to the next rung on the ladder.
Yeah, that's
true.
Know,
so
it's a very good point. And look, just for anybody watching, there's nothing wrong with the cars and the holidays and the building an empire to leave for future generation. Nothing wrong with that at all. This is really in the case of, if you feel that stirring and you think you want to do something and shift out of that zone into the space like Doris has, don't be scared to do it, because it has its own rewards and you won't actually miss that stuff you think you're going to miss if you follow your heart. That's the thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Look, and I've got, my best friend from school has been working in the corporate sector, 40 plus years now, loves it. She's a much more social person than I am. She loves going to the office, and she contributes to a lot of people around her just in the person that she is every day. And she loves it. She loves that environment. She likes the security of knowing where she's going every day, of knowing the people that she's working with. She likes doing the work she does. Absolutely. It can be, definitely. It's what is right for you.
What sets your heart on fire? For some, it might be the impact and the impact you're making in the corporate world. For others, it might be going off and teaching other people how to do sustainable living, which, by the way, we'll leave all the links down to Doris if you'd like to know more about the stuff that she does and the workshops that she does and the books that she has, if you are interested in sustainable living, just by the by. But it is about finding what is that burning thing in your heart that's leading you somewhere. Follow it like a little Tinkerbell light. It's, if you can put it into a visual.
You do, and I think and really tune into yourself. And like, a couple of years ago, I just got all excited about growing as many potatoes as I could. Now, I know that doesn't turn a lot of people on, but anyway. For me, Fiona, I grew a crop of 200 kilos of potatoes, and I was really, that meant a lot to me. Right? Now, that, from an economic perspective, that's ridiculous, because you can buy potatoes for 50 cents a kilo, you know what I mean? You can't argue it on that basis. But the joy that I got out of planting them and seeing all the nice, neat little rows of all the different varieties, and there were the purple ones and the red ones and the yellow ones and what have you, and then digging them all up and then sitting like a peasant on my back veranda, sorting them all. I've got this picture of myself sorting all the potatoes on the back veranda, because when I came to the country, I put this lovely chair on the back veranda and a little table. And I imagine I might have a cup of coffee out there or something. And here I was sorting the potatoes. But to be honest, I personally was much happier sorting potatoes on the back veranda than sitting there having coffee. So it's really what floats your boat and being okay about doing it. And we get so many, we're bombarded by a lot of messages these days. And so finding your own, who you really are and what you're about, what your passion is, and then following it is more difficult these days.
It is. And you've got to undo all the beliefs and the programming that we've had, not just from our lives, but from generations. And all the socially acceptable models of what you should be doing. Forget all that. Just tune into what you want and what makes you happy and what you're passionate about. And even, I think, start with a hobby if you want to just try it, if you're not quite sure what you're excited about. Because I know a lot of people that have been so forced into that corporate box or into the social acceptable model that they actually don't know, and they've lost touch with their passions and their and things like that. So try stuff. Just go out and taste test. Like, the world is like a charcuterie board. Did I say that right? It's like, go and taste all the different things and have a go at stuff until you work out, until something goes, oh my gosh, I want to eat a whole plate of that.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Yeah. My daughter loves propagating little plants. And so she's only in a little share house at the moment. She's got a tiny bedroom and a tiny backyard, but she's got these little pots and she's propagating these little plants, and she loves doing that. And she imagines that somewhere down the track, that might be something she wants to do, is to start a little business where she's selling plants, or a little nursery or something like that. And at the moment, all it is just a few plants out on the back balcony.
Just start somewhere.
And she loves it.
Oh,
absolutely, totally.
Oh, that is a really gorgeous message, and I could talk to you all day, and I'd love to just keep going on this. There might be a part 2 about getting Doris to come back, and maybe if we ask Doris nicely, she'll come back and teach us about some of the sustainable stuff that she does that we can do at home. But for now, thank you so much, Doris. Like, thank you so much for sharing your story and being so brave. I just want to ask one final question: what has been the biggest surprise to you from moving from the corporate to this new, quiet country lifestyle? What are you most surprised about?
I think I've been surprised by how much I've enjoyed being part of the community out here, because, to be honest, I was, again, very focused on what I was doing when I came out here. And I'm part of a local community planning group, and we get things done for the local community that through local council, and we run specific events and things and all the rest of it. And that wasn't something that even crossed my mind when I came out here. But when I turned up and moved into my house, my letterbox was full of jams and pickles and cards from neighbours saying, welcome to the, here. Here's my phone number. If you need anything, let me know.
Wow.
And it's just been like that from go to woe. So that's the community aspect of it, and becoming part of a community of people who support each other and who are out there truly, not just friends in the sense of just getting together occasionally and saying hi, but actually being there for each other.
Wow.
So, the community.
And that you would not have experienced if you didn't take that leap of faith and step outside of the big concrete jungle into the country. Wow, that is that's a great message. Thank you so much, Doris.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful. Really
you are so welcome. And we will leave, for you watching this video, we will leave the links to learn more about what Doris does if you would like to see what she's done, or have a look at her books and purchase her books. But let this be an inspiration that what we believe is meant to be our life's path may not necessarily be the be all and end all. Have a think about it. Is there anything that's missing? Do you feel like there's a little buzz inside of you, or a spark inside of you? Go and explore those options. Sometimes we need to take big, brave leaps of faith to really enjoy our life and go, what do I want the next 20 years of my life to look like? Or what do I want to look back on and not regret? So I hope this has inspired you watching at home. Thank you so much, Doris.
Thanks so much, Fiona. Thank you for having me on. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you for watching another episode of No Ordinary Woman. Please leave your comments in the comments section, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.